United Methodist Women's second Zoom session. I'm Carla Field, as most of you know and are excited about. First Chronicles 16:24 says, "Declare God's glory among the nations. Declare his wondrous works among all peoples." The United Methodist Women's prayer calendar invites us to pray as one people, responsive to God's call to relationships of caring, connecting, and healing in a world of uncertainty and all, but the love of God. This prayer calendar is, I'm gonna get back on me so I can see what I can see. This prayer calendar is very informational and inspirational. It has mission personnel listed, the retirees, where we have missions, and prayers. And I want many prayers. And I want to begin with reading one, if you will pray with me. Please, Lord, help us not just to believe in hope, but be the light that gives someone the hope they need to keep shining. In Jesus' name, amen. We are so extremely glad that you're here. And more than that, to have such a special guest with us as we watch Caroline Estonia prepare an Estonian dish that our guest will pronounce several times. And we'll learn a lot about Estonia and the Methodist Church there. You're welcome to join in with questions or comments or observations during this time together, but let's all mute until you want to join in. And this event is being recorded. Okay, Caroline has lived in Estonia, so do tell us, where is Estonia? And I'm muting now.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Caroline Estonia. I think I know everyone here, and I'm going to show you where Estonia is located. It is located in, it's considered a Baltic country in Northern Europe. So the Baltics are considered Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania along the Baltic Sea. So it's up there, it's quite north. So zoom out, it's right there. It became an independent nation in 1990. And I studied in Tartu, which is where Mari is from. And I was a university student at Nebraska Wesleyan, and I studied there my fall semester of my senior year. And just to show you, this is the Estonian flag right here. So I can't remember the significance of the colors off the top of my head, but that's the flag. They like the flag, the colors are nice. And so you do, when you're walking around in the cities, you do see a lot of these colors. I'm gonna stop my sharing. So again, I was just there for one semester. I arrived in August and then I left in January. And I purposely decided to leave in January. Most students that study abroad in the fall semester leave before Christmas. And there are several reasons why I stayed. First of all, it gave me more time and I could still live in my residence hall. It gave me a few more weeks, more time. And I also wanted to experience how Estonians celebrated Christmas and the holidays and so on. So I was very fortunate to spend Christmas with a random group of friends. I had an American, some Germans, who else was there? An Italian, so, and a wide group of people. And then I also spent New Year's Eve, and one of my roommates was from Lithuania. And so I went to Lithuania. And so she was an asset because she was in Estonia to learn Estonian. She had studied Estonian language beforehand. So she was very instrumental in my survival in Estonia because she could read and understand what was going on campus and around town. And I also took an introduction to Estonian class. So I learned basic phrases like tere means hello, some numbers and so on that I can't really remember. And I got involved in activities on campus and took all my classes were taught in English because there is a large international student population. So they do cater to, not that, they speak Estonian in Estonia, which not that many people know Estonian. So in order to have international students and so on, they do teach a lot of courses in English. Let's see here. I don't want to talk too much time about my experience. I can talk about it, and Mari, you can always just interject, but I'll talk about my experience as I cook. So let's begin cooking. So this is called kupsistort. Kupsistort. Kupsi is cookie. Tort is cake. I'm guessing "s" is the glue that connects those two words.
Kupsis is cookie, kupsis, and the E in the middle is just genitive. It's the genitive end. Genitive, just like a plus sign, basically, to make a compound word.
Okay, yeah, the compound, right. So that's what we're making. And what I love about this recipe, it's easy to make and it can be modified to whatever flavor, desire, anything you want. Mari sent me a recipe earlier. Hers doesn't use chocolate, it's just cream and dairy products, but this one uses chocolate. So I'm using shortbread cookies, the Girl Scout ones, the Tagalogs. And then I'm putting it in this dish because it needs to go in the fridge. So with the lid. So that's what I'm using. And so first of all, I did a practice run. If you're using graham crackers, that works too, but it's very soft. So you have to be very quick at, dipping them and so on. So first of all, you get your cookies, and 3 cups of milk is a lot of milk when I did this recipe. So I recommend putting a little milk in the bowl first, dip your cookies in it, and then if you need more, just add more, and rather than wasting it. Because the other night I wasted a bunch of milk. Well, I drank it, but. So I have the cookie, and you want to dunk it, but quickly, because you don't want the cookie to fall apart. So 1, 2, these cookies are a lot more stable than the graham crackers. The graham crackers, I had to really dunk them in very quickly. So, and then you put them down, you kind of form a little, the recipe calls like 2 by 3 cookies by 2. You can make it how big or as little as you want. So I might, since these cookies are really little, I might do 4 cookies, a 4 by 2 layer, or I might do a square. I don't know. It's up to you. It's a very flexible recipe. So we'll do that. And do not dump all the cookies and the milk at the same time, because then you're just gonna have cookie mess. Which I think the American in us wants to dump them all in. But that won't work. Yeah, these cookies are a lot thicker, so that's good. What I noticed, one thing when I lived in Estonia is they love dairy products compared to the US. And there's a lot more dairy products that just don't translate into English, at least into American English. So that was one thing that was very surprising, is just the difference of dairy products. And there's like different types of like sour creams, and I think there's like a thick one and a thin one. And so if you like dairy products, Estonia, well, the Baltics are the place to go. And one of my favorite things I had there was called, we don't have them in the US, it's called a curd. The English translation is like a curd treat or a curd snack. And it's kind of like a cheesecake, but not as sweet, but you have that kind of sour dairy flavor with a sweet chocolate on the outside, and it's very tasty, in my opinion.
You're talking about kohuke.
Yes, yes.
We love it. It's a staple breakfast food.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're very delicious. Okay.
Mari, since dairy products are so prevalent, is cattle farming, is that a big industry in
Yes.
Estonia?
Yes. I don't know that we import lots of milk. I think most of our milk comes from Estonia. But even though I like to hear that people like Estonian dairy products, I have made an observation that within Europe, at least, the more north you go, the better the dairy products get. So here in Germany, I really miss the Estonian stuff, but actually in Sweden, the stuff is even better. And actually also the gene mutation that allows people to consume milk products longer is more prevalent in the north.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Mari, does this mean that people in Estonia almost never have what we call dairy intolerance? In other words, everyone can eat dairy, it seems?
Unfortunately, not everyone, but there are definitely more people who can eat dairy throughout their lives. And then there are also people like my father who only developed lactose intolerance, I think in his 50s or even maybe beginning of 60s.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so these Girl Scout cookies are very round, which is good and bad. So it's not going to make a perfect square, which is fine. I put a layer of sour cream. So you use your 1 table of sour cream and you just spread it. Okay, no sugar or anything, just sour cream. I use, so there's no special technique. Just spread some sour cream over it, and then you repeat these cookie layers and a sour cream layer. The recipe says 3 layers of cookie and sour cream. So if you want more, you can add more. If you're using graham crackers, I'd recommend more because the crackers are so much thinner than the cookies. But we'll just do this until we're done.
Till it's like 6 inches tall.
No, I don't have that many cookies. But I was also thinking, in the summer, at least here in the US, we use graham crackers for s'mores, and in Tennessee it's so humid, and then you don't use like half the package, and then the next day the graham crackers are stale and gross. Well, this is a great way to use them because they're getting soaked in milk and sour cream anyways, so you're not gonna know if they're stale. Okay, so I did my second layer, and now sour cream. And so on. Mari, can you teach us some basic Estonian words? Like, how do you say hello?
So you already mentioned it. I'm going to write it down. I think it's maybe easier to hear it and be able to read it at the same time. So hello is tere. Tere.
Tere.
Yes, it is derived from the word tervis, which means health. So basically, when Estonians greet each other, they wish each other good health, which is especially important during these times.
Yeah.
So maybe I can also teach you how to say my name is. So whenever you go to Estonia, you will be able to say hello and introduce yourself. So my is Minu. Minu. And the name is Nimi. Minu nimi. And then is on. Minu nimi on. Minu nimi on Mari.
Minu nimi on Caroline.
Exactly. If anybody needs or wishes me to write down any other words, please let me know.
How about
do-
thank you?
Thank
Thank
you. Yes, I'll teach you the easier one because there are two versions. And there's also a lot of English slang in the Estonian language. I think it's in most languages nowadays. So we also sometimes say thanks. We don't say it the English way, not thanks, but thanks. But the Estonian word is tänan. Tänan. So here's an A with 2 dots. Oh, you don't see it. A with 2 dots on top of it. It's pronounced a. Tänan.
Okay, so I finished my third layer. I still have a bunch of milk left, and I'll drink it after this, but I'm very confused as to why the recipe we sent you said 3 cups. Mari also
It
said,
might be because our cookies are bigger and thicker, so they maybe take more milk inside.
that's true, and these are really tight. Also, if you want to use coffee, like a tiramisu, so the next time you want to make it, maybe you could do coffee milk. You know, there's lots of varieties. Okay, so I'm doing my last layer of sour cream. Mari, you'd be surprised. It's actually kind of hard to find like these type of shortbread cookies that were recommended for this recipe.
Yeah, and then also in the correct shape,
Yeah,
because we use square ones.
yeah, it's not a popular cookie here in the US.
But this cake, one of the reasons why it's so popular is that it is very diverse, or anybody can make it the way they want, they like. So as you said, the recipe that I sent you doesn't have chocolate because my family usually did it with jam instead. Or you can put sprinkles, you can put coconut, you can put whatever fruit you want in the middle or on top. You can do it however you want. In Estonia, we also have chocolate cookies that we use sometimes for this. So, and I've even heard that some people soak the cookies in juice, not in milk or coffee.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm doing 3 layers. I don't know, Ryan, you want to do another layer? Use up the rest of these cookies?
Sure.
Just a moment. My wife, Gail, has a question for Mari.
Would a digestive biscuit be closer to the kind of cookie that you would use?
You can definitely use them, but I think a digestive is more porous, so
Yes.
it's more probable that it will just disintegrate into the milk. So you would probably have to work really fast.
All right, so my assistant is going to work on the 4th layer. My assistant is also my husband. He'll be here in a second. He is preparing himself. Next, I'm going to melt here's my assistant. So next, it's the chocolate. So 3 tablespoons of butter, and then the 4 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. Again, there's really not a special technique. Only the technique is to constantly stir, as you know, if you work with chocolate, because it could melt. I mean, could burn. You don't want it to burn out. Okay, so I have my 3 tablespoons of that. 4 tablespoons.
Okay, I missed the thing about you melt your chocolate. Is that what you said?
That's what we're working on right now.
Okay.
So this is the whipping cream, the butter, and the chocolate chip. So this one, I'm using 60% cacao bittersweet chocolate chips. I like when I had it the other one I made, the dark chocolate and the sour cream is a really nice flavor. So, but it's up to you. If you use milk chocolate, you can experiment. So 1/4 cup of that.
And are you gonna mix your butter with your chocolate?
Yep, I just put it all together.
Okay.
I just put it all.
Marty, what kinds of chocolate do you prefer?
I prefer the sugary milk chocolate one. Unfortunately, I know that the dark chocolate is more healthy.
Well, it's all relative. But regular chocolate chips are good. It's just these were on sale. And so I can't pass up Ghirardelli chocolate that's on sale. So this just stir. Yeah, so when I went to Estonia, for those of you that don't know, I did my undergraduate degree at Nebraska Wesleyan University in Lincoln, Nebraska. And being a private university, liberal arts, they really put a lot of emphasis on study abroad and make it part of their culture, the campus culture. So at the time, I was the first student at Wesleyan to study in Estonia. And I got connected before I left. I talked to our alumni office, just asking if anyone had any connections with Estonia. And it turned out there is an alum. He had helped Estonia gain its recognition of independence in the U.S. government, after they broke away from the Soviet Union. And so he was very instrumental and knew a lot of Estonians and had a lot of relationships with Estonia and so forth. And so after my semester exchange, and I got to meet some of his friends and I was there, which was really great. And after that exchange, then Wesleyan developed like a sister school. So since then, there's students that go back and forth in exchange. Students from Estonia come to Wesleyan in Lincoln, and then they have staff exchanges and student exchanges. So now it's a big sister school with Nebraska Wesleyan. So that's pretty exciting. But I had a really great experience there. A lot of it is when people would see me, and I have blonde. A lot of people in Estonia have blonde hair, blue eyes, so I blended in quite well. So,
All right, is the whipping cream supposed to go in with the butter and the chocolate?
yes.
Carla and Lynn and Caroline, how did we come to know Marty? How did we come to be blessed by Marty's presence today?
Okay, so one of the friends I made when I was in Estonia, his name's Enzo. And so last week I had emailed, because if anyone knew anyone from Estonia, and so he's friends with Marty. Enzo's German. Oh no.
Wonderful, thank you.
This is, my chocolate is what it's not supposed to be doing.
I do also want to mention that Caroline did significant work in this. We contacted people through the United Methodist Church, through United Methodist Women, and also United Methodist missionaries. And Carla made some contact with some missionaries, and unfortunately they were not able to meet with us at this particular time, but we're just so grateful that Marty was responsive to us.
All right.
I think mine's right.
Okay. Well, mine wasn't. It got too hot on this, which is expected because this thing gets too hot. So when your chocolate's ready, and we might finish this on the stove. I might have my assistant finish it on the stove. I did the other one on the stove. I didn't do it on here. And this one, I think this gets too hot. So all you do is just pour it over your dish. And yeah, just pour it over your cookies.
My sauce was quite thin, and I assume it's going to sit.
Yeah, so yeah, pour it over. And then you can decorate it and then put it in the fridge. And that's it. And mine does not look good, so we will do that later. And then, so.
Will this be a contest where Gail and I can judge all the different dishes?
Well, your host.
Yes, it's always a competition. Yes.
I think your host is probably going to lose that. We're already on round 2.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I think Lynn has some things to say now.
Yeah, I'm done. Any questions? You got it all poured on top. If you have sprinkles, like I was gonna decorate mine with these blue sprinkles, like the Estonian flag, blue and white. But I'll do that later.
Okay, y'all, we want to get to Marty quickly, but I do want to say a few words about the presence of the United Methodist Church in Estonia. Of course, during the Soviet times, religion was really frowned upon and limited. So it wasn't until the early 1990s that most religions started to significantly increase. However, there was a representative at the 1968 conference in Dallas that founded the United Methodist Church as we know it. So Estonia has been on board from the very beginning. Today, there are 24 United Methodist congregations with a membership of 1,700 folks. In 1994, the United Methodist Church founded the Baltic Methodist Theological Seminary, which serves the Baltic republics of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. It was modeled after the Asbury Theological Seminary, I believe is in Kentucky, in the United States. And then in 2009, I'm going to mention this quickly because it is Women's History Month. A woman by the name of Mealy Tankler became the president of the Baltic Methodist Theological Seminary. She was raised as a Baptist during Soviet times when religions often had to almost go underground. But she married a United Methodist. Carla, does that sound familiar? And she was then very much transformed to the United Methodist religion. And she teaches practical theology and is constantly challenged by her institutional leadership challenges to strive both academically and spiritually. And she tries to model these characteristics to try to encourage people of different faiths, of different areas, of different genders to pursue their ambitions. And I encourage all of you to just take a look on the internet. You can look at the United Methodist website. You can just, Google Estonia. You can Google a number of different things to learn more about some of these, fascinating activities. And to remember that our United Methodist denomination stretches all over the world and includes so many different people. It's really quite fascinating. So we're so lucky to have Marty with us right now, and I would like to turn over to her so that she can tell us some things about Estonia. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is Mari, and I am from Estonia, but I currently live and work in Berlin. So if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in at any time. But I've been given 10 minutes, so to sum up a whole country in just 10 minutes is a kind of a challenge. So I'll just jump into it. We like to be called a part of Northern Europe, even though we are also in the East. So some people say we're Eastern Europe, which politically seen maybe is correct because of our history, but also our capital city is further north than the capital city of Sweden. So I don't know. The population of the whole country is 1.3 million, which is not very much. And only about 70% of those 1.3 million are ethnic Estonians. So because of our history, we have some Germans, some Swedes, Danes, but a lot of Russians. So the largest minority is Russian minority. It's about 25%. And many of them actually do not speak Estonian, even though the national language is Estonian. We tend to speak several foreign languages because it's a small country. Very few people are going to learn our language to communicate with us. So we speak often several foreign languages. But the national language is Estonian, which is very similar to Finnish. We are in the EU, so the United Nations, European Union. We are also in NATO. And at the moment, actually, Estonia is also part of the United Nations Security Council. We are non-permanent member until the end of this year, which maybe doesn't sound like a big deal for you because you are a permanent member, but for us, it's a huge deal to be able to have a say in the important matters that the United Nations Security Council does. Estonia is known from some things. One of them is definitely nature. So the population is rather small, even though the country is about as large as Denmark or the Netherlands. Our population is about 10 times less. So I usually, when I speak about Estonia, I want to compare the population density. And what I usually say is, look, our population density is so much less than wherever my listeners are from, but actually I checked and the population density of Martin is even smaller. So this time I can't say what I usually say, but still the population density is rather small. We have about 50% of Estonia is covered by forests or marshlands. So there are many animals and birds that are extinct in other countries. They can still be found in Estonia. So there's a lot of bird lovers that come to look at them in Estonia. We also have a lot of islands, about over 2,000 islands, which is a little bit funny if you think about our southern neighbor, Latvia. They are very close to us and they have 0 islands. So the nature is very different between the two countries. What else? Our history is quite colorful. It's impossible to conclude in just a couple of minutes, but we have been, before we had the chance to make our own country, the people who lived here, who spoke the same language, to make a country, the Germans already came in the 13th century. The Germans conquered us, the Russians did, the Danes did, the Swedes did, the Poles did. So it was a whole mixture for centuries. But somehow the Estonian culture and the Estonian language was able to survive until there was a national awakening in the end of 18th century and the beginning of 19th century. It was a common theme throughout Europe. And it culminated with our independence after the First World War. So 1920, we gained our first independence. So actually last year we celebrated 100 years of independent Estonia. Unfortunately, we know from history that the First World War was followed by Second World War, and within that we lost our independence in 1940. So we only got 20 years of independence. We were occupied by the Soviet Union, and however, we never recognized this occupation as legal. So we did regain our independence. We call it regain independence in 1991 in August. But what is very important for us is that we say that we are a continuous country. We are the same Estonia as we were in 1920. It's quite important for a couple of legal reasons. For example, also regaining the real estate that the first Estonian Republic owned, like our embassies, for example, here in Berlin. This year we are celebrating 100 years diplomatic ties to Germany. But like I said, we regained our independence in 1991, which means that this year we are celebrating 30 years of re-independent Estonia. So Estonia, so to say, has 2 birthdays. A little bit about the food. Historically, it's very close to the nature, and the people in Estonia were never very rich. So it was quite simple food. But also we have quite a lot of influences from the German side. For example, potato salad and pork, but also from Russia and Sweden. We also love getting our food from nature. It used to be because of need, but now people have vegetables in their garden and they go into the forest to go mushrooming or pick berries in the fall. And maybe just a couple of words about the language. I do also teach Estonian here in Berlin, so it's a topic that is near and dear to my heart. It is a Finno-Ugric language, which basically means that it is not an Indo-European language. Indo-European languages are almost all languages that are between India and Europe. Well, also actually in America, because you speak English there, which comes from England, or I mean, yes. So all those languages between India and Europe are Indo-European languages, except the Basque language in Spain, for example, and I think also Albanian, but also Estonian, Finnish, and Hungarian. Those three languages are in one group. They are they are Ugric languages, and they are totally different. Some people say they think that Estonian, well, these languages originate from Asia. So there are some similarities. I cannot see them, but language professors can find them. We don't have, for example, grammatical sex, so there's no he or she. And we also don't have a grammatical future, for example. So, and we have some letters that you might not have. We have a lot of cases, which is something that I think English people who haven't learned any foreign languages might not even know what it means, because you don't have any. You just don't use any cases. So we have 14 of those, which makes it very difficult to learn. So I hope I kept that within the time frame. And if you have any questions, please, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, everyone, I would like you to unmute yourselves because we have some comprehension questions to make sure everybody was paying attention to Mari. Please unmute yourselves and shout out the answers. Question number 1, true or false? Estonia is not a member of the European Union or NATO.
False.
Good job, good job. Number 2. The official language, which is Estonian, is a Germanic language, making it genetically related to English.
No. False.
False. Very good. Estonia has a population of 1.3 million people.
True.
True.
Good job, good job. Estonia includes a mainland and 2,222 islands.
Very specific.
True. We know there's 2,000.
There you go, there you go. So according to Wikipedia, it's 2,222. So we will
Wow.
say, yes, yes, that is true. Okay, now this one, I'm trying to trick you here. Estonia is bordered to the north by the Baltic Sea.
True.
To the north.
Where?
To the
To
north
the
or
west.
west.
Good job. To the west. To the west. To the north is actually the Gulf of Finland, because Finland is just right across. All righty. Very good, everyone. Oh, this is one last fun one. Since gaining sort of independence in 1991, Estonia has participated in every Olympic Games. That's a guess. What do you think?
True.
True, true, true. Estonia is very good and very competitive for the small population. They do very well in the medal count and very competitive. Thank you very much for everyone for competing. Any more questions for Mari?
I have
I'd
one.
like to know what languages she speaks.
I speak fluently only 4 languages, so Estonian, German, English, and Swedish. But I also speak some Russian and Icelandic.
Now, do you learn English in school? Because I know,
Yes.
like when I've gone to Holland, they have to learn English and French because other
Yes.
countries. So if you had to find a language that everybody in your area would speak the same, what would that language be? I mean, because I know like in
Well-
parts of Europe, French is the dominant language of all the smaller countries.
French.
Well, I mean, like everybody could speak French or maybe that's
You
just true.
mean
of, like
the Benelux
Brussels
countries.
and
Yes. No. In Estonia, and I think Latvia and Lithuania as well. It's the older generation. Obviously, they can communicate with each other in Russian. But when we regained independence, it was quite an important political decision actually to choose what will be our lingua franca, so the language that we can communicate with. And I think Latvia and Lithuania were more leaning towards Russian because first of all, they already spoke it. Second of all, Latvian and Lithuanian, they are Baltic languages and they are more related to Russian. So I think it was easier for them. But the first president that we had in Estonia, he was very strict about choosing English. So he just started to speak English with the others. And well, maybe the Latvians and Lithuanians see it differently, but we Estonians think that then they follow the example. So now the newer generation, and actually even my parents, we all speak, we can all speak English. And then the second language is maybe nowadays, maybe even not Russian anymore. So maybe German. There's quite a lot of people who speak Swedish, Finnish, some French.
What will the course of your life be, Marty, in years to come? What do you hope to be doing in years to come?
Oh, it feels like a job interview. I don't know exactly. To be honest, actually, we have been contemplating moving back to Estonia because even though Berlin is a very interesting city to live in, it's full of history. So every corner has a significance. I do miss I do miss Estonia. It's simple there. The people are more like me, and I don't know. I'm thinking about moving back to Estonia, but obviously at the moment it's quite difficult.
You miss the dairy products, right?
Among other things, yes.
Thank you, Marty. We need to shift gears here briefly since this is a special time of Lent. We are also interested in other religions, Marty, in your area of the world, and we know that Eastern Orthodoxy is a dominant religion, and we, as United Methodists in West Tennessee, are not as familiar with this as we would like to be. And a pastor in our area has recently done some good work in this area, and we have a video that we would like to play.
Yes. Okay. Let me make sure. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is Reverend Amanda Kreis, and she is talking a little bit about the history of Eastern Orthodox.
Can't be with you in real time, but I'm grateful for the invitation that Lynn extended to me to join you all and to share just a little bit about the very limited knowledge that I have of the Eastern Orthodox Church. Just a disclaimer to start with, I do not have an extensive knowledge of this tradition, but I have learned a few things just in my general study of the church. And so I'm happy to share those with you. And if something piques your interest and you want to have a conversation, that's great. Or correct me if I speak something a little out of turn and you have better information, please share that with me. But what I understand about the Eastern Orthodox Church is that for the first 1,000 years of Christianity, the Eastern Church and the Church at Rome, the Catholic Church at Rome, were sort of like the East-West version of the same church. They were one. And throughout that first 1,000 years of the church, there were several big church meetings, councils, where theology and just the tenets of the faith were discussed and trying to be ironed out. And in the year 1054, there was this giant schism. Actually, it's called the Great Schism, where the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Church just could not see eye to eye, and both claimed that the other was a heretic. We don't see anything like this now, do we? But they just agreed to disagree, and they went their separate ways. The Eastern Church has a lot of connection with Constantinople. You've probably heard the story about Constantinople and Emperor Constantine. He was the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, and he had this vision of a cross on the battlefield. And he believed that was a message from God saying that Christianity should be the main religion of the empire. So he deemed that so, and so Constantinople at the time was the capital of that empire. And so that capital city now is known as Istanbul, which is where the Eastern Orthodox Church is sort of centered from. It's a lot different in structure and polity from the Roman Catholic Church. They operate more as a self-governing, like each individual church is more self-governing than the big universal Roman Catholic Church. But they do still believe in the idea of the church. A couple of just the main theological differences between Eastern Orthodox and the Roman Catholic is that the Eastern Orthodox tradition really does not believe in the supremacy or the infallibility of a pope. They do have church leaders and people in positions of authority, but those authority figures are known as one among equals, whereas the Roman Catholic Church has beliefs about just this proximity to God that the Pope might have over and above the average Christian. Another thing that I think is interesting is in the way that they differ around their ideas about Mary, the Virgin Mary. This is where us Protestants probably relate more to the Eastern Orthodox tradition. The Roman Catholic Church believes that not only was Jesus a virgin birth, but they believe in the Immaculate Conception of Mary, that Mary was just brought into being in her mother's womb without sex, or as they name it in the doctrine, without the original sin. And so the Eastern Orthodox Church just has a different understanding of labeling that a sin, which also is reflected in their ideas about celibacy. Celibacy is an optional thing for leaders in the Eastern Orthodox Church. There are priests who are ordained and married, and there are priests who have chosen to remain celibate in the Eastern Orthodox tradition. Whereas in the Roman Catholic Church, it's a requirement. To be a priest means that you have to take that vow of celibacy. And one last thing I was just going to throw in there is this idea that the Eastern Orthodox Church has of theosis or deification. I was really fascinated by this in seminary when I learned about it, because I don't think it's totally unlike us Methodists and our understanding of Wesley's teaching of sanctification. So again, my translation of the Eastern Orthodox teaching is very, very limited knowledge of their traditions. But the way I understand theosis is that it is a process of transformation that you give yourself to in order to become more and more and more like God. And the teaching in the Eastern Orthodox Church is that that is the point of our salvation, is to offer ourselves to be more and more and more like God, so that eventually the face of God is in our face. Like when you look in my face, you see the face of God. And this goes really well with the doctrine of the fact that we were all created in God's image, and there is something we Protestant Christians, we blame the fall in Genesis, and that fall with Adam and Eve separated us from this knowledge that we have that we were created in God's image. And so our life in following Christ and following God is to recover that image, restore that image. And Christ is the offering that allows us to restore that image, because for us, the hole was too big, the gap was too wide. But because of Christ, we can recover that image of God in ourselves. So the way that Eastern Orthodox Church sort of describes that process is this process of theosis or deification, where we recover that image of God and exude that image of God. And the way I see that as similar to our beliefs as Methodists is that Wesley believes that our process of sanctification is also receiving that free gift of grace that Jesus offers us to understand who we truly are in the image of God that we were created in. And as we walk along our Christian walk and our journey of sanctification, our hearts are more and more and more filled with love. And so there's less and less and less room for sinning or for, hurting your neighbor. And because of these hearts full of love, reflect a more true image of who we were created to be, which is a person who was created in the image of God. So I find that to be a really interesting piece of Eastern Orthodox theology. I hope that you guys have had a great time cooking with Caroline. I'm sad that I'm missing it, but I know it's a great presentation, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this time. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was Reverend Amanda Christ and Alicia. You're on mute.
Hopefully I'm turning my camera around.
Okay.
It's not going to let me turn my camera around. Okay, well, oh, there it goes. Okay, well, I'm going to show a few things about the Eastern Orthodox Church and and Mari, you may be able to tell me if this is correct or not. It said that basically the country of Estonia was not terribly religious, that the non-religious percentage was 64.87%. The Eastern Orthodox was 19.8%, and Lutheran was 1.2%. Does that sound about right?
You're on mute. Okay.
Well, this is an icon. This is something that would be found or something similar to it. And I can thank Brother Randy for letting us use this today.
I think that the numbers that you said, they sound quite high.
Okay.
According to some places, and I do believe it, we are one of the least religious countries in the world.
Right. That's everything I saw said that pretty much. I didn't want it to sound offensive. Okay.
Alicia, I bet you that your statistics are of the religious people. I'll bet that those statistics, that's the division of the people who claim a religion, is what I would expect. That's what I think that is, Marty.
Okay, because it said non-religious was 64% of the ones. So anyway, but several things it said.
It could be that there's a quite a lot. We were one of the last pagans in Europe, so it is possible. There's quite a lot of people who consider themselves spiritual or religious, but they don't believe in a God or maybe a Christian God or whatever. Okay. They believe in souls. They believe in a rock God and a tree God and things like that.
Okay.
That's similar to Japan, isn't it, Caroline?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Because now that I've done all my research, some of it feels kind of silly since you're sitting here, Mari. Because it's almost like I'm taking the quiz with the teacher in front of me. But this is an icon such that might be found in an Eastern Orthodox church. The icons are sacred works of art that provide inspiration and connect the worshiper with the spiritual world. And the scenes depicted in icons usually relate to liturgical celebrations rather than actual historical events. And usually they're Christ or Mary or some other saints. And I remember when I was in the Russian Orthodox churches, which are kind of I believe, a sister to this, the churches were just full. The walls were completely full of the icons. And this is one that I did get in Moscow of Jesus. And the colors of the icons are symbolic. Gold represents the radiance of heaven, red, divine light, blue is the color of human life, white is the uncreated light of God, and it's only used for resurrection and the transfiguration of Christ. And if you look at this one of Jesus, he wears a red undergarment with a blue outer garment. God became human. And this one, the big one is, it's got green, but it could be represented where Mary wears a blue undergarment with a red overgarment, where human was granted gift by God. So those are some of the icons. And something that's different that we would not necessarily relate to is the Eastern Orthodox cross. It looks totally different from what we're used to. And the Eastern Orthodox Church developed a tradition of adding a shorter horizontal beam above the one holding the arms of Jesus and another one at the bottom of the cross, and it's slanted. And this is typically called the Eastern Cross. The smaller beam above represents Pontius Pilate's inscription written in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew of Jesus of Nazareth. The lower beam represents the footrest upon which Jesus's feet were nailed, and several traditions exist which explain the reason it's slanted. And the tradition goes back to the 11th century, and it holds that the slanting beam symbolized the balance between the good thief and the bad thief. And the good thief found salvation at the last moment of his life and was raised to heaven, while the bad thief, cursing God in his last breath, will be thrust downward to hell. And the other parts of this particular cross, the little reservoirs hold leaves, incense, rocks, and dirt. So that's just something about this specific one. And then as we were doing our gonna go back to this one, when my mom and I were talking about me doing something like this, everything that we had thought was wrong. So Mari, this was what we were expecting Ukrainian crafts to look like, all the Estonian crafts to look like, which was Ukrainian and Russian, and this is not true. So in my homework, I found a cute little, hopefully Estonian doll.
Oh, where did you get that?
eBay or Etsy.
Wow.
And she was kind enough to make sure she got here on time. And then I made my own Estonian Easter eggs. I'm so proud of myself. So
with onion leaves.
With onion leaves. My house stunk to high heaven. But you wrap the eggs. I put some flowers and some green weeds that I needed to pull anyway. So I pulled them and stuck them on there and then wrapped them in I had a red onion. And so the red onions created with the plants, they created this kind of yellow with some streaks of purple. And then I had some white onion leaves that were not quite as exciting. But I was so proud of myself for making my Estonian Easter eggs. Oh, and then I was going to show that the currency is euros, like the rest of Europe. So my collection of euros there. But anyway, so that was one thing that I think I learned is so many countries, especially smaller countries, we just lump into one big thing. We just see that you're part of Eastern Europe, so therefore you must be part of the Soviet Union. So therefore your stuff must be the same as their stuff. And I also saw that, if you really wanted something special from Estonia, it would be something that was knitted, like a scarf or mittens, that those things were very special. And then I've got something I want to ask you about. This is my cake that I brought back from Russia in 2012, and I've kept it. Some kind of a surprise cake. Is this anything you've ever seen? Because I can't seem to find a name for it.
I'm not sure. The Russian culture is Russia is large, so I'm sure there are many different aspects of it that did not come over to Estonia. So I don't really know. I see that there's the two-headed bird, which is a symbol of the Tsar Russia. It was also on the coins. It used to be on the Tsar coins, but I don't really know much more about the cake. But I want to say, if I may comment quickly, what you said there was music to my ears, especially coming from a small country. It's very typical that we are lumped together with someone, and we are quite different from our neighbors. And I just wanted to show that your doll is adorable. I also have some traditional clothes on today.
Oh, there you are.
So, and I also have this brooch that we always wear here on the throat. It's always made of silver, and the bigger it is, the richer the lady was. And here I step on my chair to maybe show you.
Oh wow, that's really pretty.
Lovely.
And maybe I can also add a little bit about the Orthodox religion. I have an interesting personal relationship with it because most Estonians, like most Estonians, I'm not religious. However, my grandmother, she is from South Estonia. So you would think that Estonia is so small that it must be the same everywhere. But actually, we have within Estonia quite large differences as well, particularly between South and North. During the National Awakening, there was a man, Uku Masing, who decided that he wanted to standardize the Estonian language because different regions had their own dialects. Interestingly, he chose as the standard language the North Estonian dialect, which is quite different from the Finnish one. So now we have, if you look at the map, I don't have a map, but so up here we have Finland and here we have Estonia. And the Finnish language and the South Estonian language are more similar to each other. That was a side comment, but my grandmother comes from South Estonia, and there is there's a kingdom there. They don't have much autonomy, but they are called the Setu Kingdom, and they are Estonians. They see themselves as Estonians as well as Setu, and they are actually Orthodox. Their religion is an interesting mixture of Russian Orthodox and nature religion. And she actually also has these icons in her bedroom, which I thought was interesting, that there's a mixture of this as well. They do belong to the Orthodox Church, but the actual religion is a little bit mixed.
Interesting.
And when I was looking at the Easter eggs, Easter is definitely celebrated, it sounds like, but it's more of a spring festival. And what we would consider Holy Thursday, which is Good Thursday, is a day that you guys get ready for Good Friday, and like that's a day when you make sure everything's cleaned out and you're kind of ready for the coming season. And
yes, so it used to always be that for holidays, Estonians, they need to clean before, never on the day. So yes, we have Fridays. Good Friday is a national holiday in Estonia, but the Thursday and the Monday after is not really celebrated.
Okay.
Okay, Alicia, you have other things to say?
That's it. I did all kinds of research, but Mari, it's just been so fabulous. I feel like I know you and your country so much better now. And I'm glad I was able to separate out that you're not the Ukraine, you're not the Soviet Union. Estonia is just a wonderful little country unto itself.
Well, Alicia, we thank you and all the other participants, and especially our guest. How delightful she is. It's wonderful. Okay, I have a prayer that will conclude our session unless somebody else wants to say something. And if not, we will.
Kathy has
pray.
a question.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's about the dessert.
Yes.
How long does it stay refrigerated before you?
As long as it takes for the chocolate to harden. The recipe says 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
It's best the next day.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mari.
Thank you.
Which is really better because we don't want to indulge until Sunday during Lent.
Well, okay, anything else? Let us pray. We thank you, God, for the far-reaching positive influence of the United Methodist Church in Estonia, the world, and in our local neighborhoods. In this Women's History Month, we thank you for the ever-evolving role of women and the contributions they make to the kingdom of God. We ask you to open our hearts and use our talents to serve our changing world. In Jesus' name, amen. Our session is concluded.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Oh, and Mari, it was wonderful. Oh my goodness.
Mari,
Thank you very
so
much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about Estonia. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me via email. Caroline has my email, and feel free to distribute it. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you
Would
so
it
much.
be
Thank you so much.
Thank you. so
Marty, would
much.
it be okay to use your picture? I've screenshot a couple of times through the video if we wanted
Yes.
to publicize this within our church.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. You were wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me be part of this, and I wish you a nice weekend.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy
Bye.
the weather tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.